Crypto products and NFTs are unregulated and can be highly risky. There may be no regulatory recourse for any loss from such transactions.
Here we have Terra, and a lot of people are dancing and they are enjoying because here comes the revival of Terra. Terra, which was, in a way, a lot of experts pointed, responsible for the market crash. But it is back. But should you be dancing if you ever had Luna tokens? And should you be happy about this revival? How good is this revival? We'll analyze in today's episode. This is Coffee and Crypto. I'm Arun Singh, and today's episode is all about the revival of Terra. Developers behind failed stablecoin Terra USD have voted to abandon the token in favor of creating an absolutely new blockchain and digital asset weeks after the cryptocurrency collapse. The brand new chain was going to be launched today, but the revised time is for tomorrow now. They've tweeted this. They said, yesterday we said Terra 2.0 is coming. Tomorrow it arrives. The community has been working around the clock to coordinate the new chain's launch. Subject to potential change, we expect Terra to go live on May 28, 2022 at around 6 a.m. UTC. So as per Indian Standard Time, it should be 11:30 a.m. tomorrow. So that is when Terra is going to be revived. But we'll tell you all that you need to know about this revival plan and how will you be getting the absolutely new tokens as well. We'll discuss that with our guest, but let's explain about this revival plan as well to you. For that, we'll go to our coffee wall. Let's go. So all that you need to know about Terra Luna revival plan. First, what happened in the past? Let's begin with a bit of background here. Terra is a network. Terra Luna is one token and Terra USD is another. It was called UST. It was a stable coin. It slipped below its 1:1 peg to the dollar, roiling cryptocurrency markets already under pressure alongside tumbling stock markets. It traded as low as $0.16 to the US dollar, and I'm being generous here. Cryptocurrency exchanges delisted this token amid its crash. But what is the revival plan? How is it coming back to action? The plan is called Terra Luna Hard Fork. Now what's hard fork? Well, hard fork is related to blockchain technology when a radical change is brought to a network's protocol, making previous one valid blocks and transactions invalid or vice versa. Terra will effectively create a new chain without the algorithmic stablecoin. The old chain will be called Terra Classic. Token will be LUNC, L-U-N-C, and then there'll be new chain that will be called Terra and token would be Luna. Now, how will these be redistributed? Remember, Terra Luna coins are linked. When we say Terra, we mean USD, which is their stable coin pegged to dollar. Now, users had to buy some Terra and then exchange it instead of Luna, for which they would earn small profits. With both coins crashing after the supply-demand ratio broke, Terra is opting redistribution. I mean, what's the option that they've got? Now, they are starting it from the scratch. Luna tokens are restricted to 1 billion. To summarize token distribution, here are the details. 30% goes to the community pool, 35% go to the pre-attack Luna holders, 10% to pre-attack USD holders, 10% to post-attack Luna holders, and then 15% to post-attack USD holders. I'm reiterating here, USD and Luna are interlinked and both had crash. But this pre-attack, post-attack categorization, and also keep this in mind, they're calling it an attack. They're not calling it a crash because as for them, this is some attack which actually led to the crash. So they're calling it pre-attack and post-attack. That's the categorization. But what does the categorization mean? Pre-attack means snapshot to be taken at a certain block. They have mentioned the date here, which is 7th of May. For post-attack, it is 27th of May. But what is a snapshot, you ask? A snapshot means a recording of the state of a blockchain at a specific point in time. Now, this is my explainer, but of course, our experts will also decode the good and bad of it. And as I said, we'll also talk about if this revival plan is good at all. For that, we have two guests. Ajit Khurana, founder of Flexical, Sharat Chandra, VP Research and Strategy, Earth ID. A very warm welcome to both of you. Mr. Khurana, I want to begin with you. Explain this categorization. 10% goes to this, and then even if you fall into that category, a part of it would actually come to you first. There's a lot of, there are several tables on the website. Can you just break it down for us? What is this categorization?
So when there is a revival plan and there's a new token being introduced for the revival plan, Luna or Terra's attempt should be to be as fair in giving the benefits to people who have made a loss. For this, it needs to know who has made how much loss, which means who held how many tokens. This is impossible because every second, tens of thousands of transactions are taking place. So what they did was that instead of saying when the price started falling or the token got depegged from the dollar, we will find who held the tokens and distributed in that proportion, because people may have panicked, sold, or tried to speculatively buy. They have come up with different snapshots based on their understanding of how these tokens moved, and they will divide the new token in certain proportions, which you have just shown on screen, to people who held the Luna token or the Terra token before the crash occurred or after the crash occurred.
Right, but then there's also going to be that gap here. That duration where the crash was happening. What about that?
Correct. So this is why it is impossible, as in it's literally impossible to figure out who should be compensated. For example, people who continue to hold the UST or the old Luna for the longest time, they will be able to get it in all of the categories. What about people who speculatively bought it when the price crashed? They will needlessly be given a compensation when they've already made a profit because of the speculative crash. So it is impossible, and you are right that there will be people who will say that I lost money then and I lost money now, and there'll be people who gained money then because they speculatively bought it at a very low price and they gained money now.
Mr. Chandra, isn't it a very complex plan? How does one know which category one falls into, and then how will I get the airdrop? How will I really receive those tokens?
Right, and as Ajit pointed out, there are no clear answers there, right? And since it's very difficult to determine who should be compensated in which order, depending upon at what point in time you made those trades and lost money. So I think it's a pretty complex process, and even I sincerely do not believe that just doing a hard fork will let them sail through this crisis, right? Because Terra as an ecosystem, they have suffered a massive trust breach, right? So community members will still see this with an iota of suspicion and look at their plans very, very, I would say, with minute detail.
Sure, but Mr. Khurana, I was also reading some reports where they said, there's just positive sentiment about this new blockchain as well, because they're back, it's a revival, and, they have all these strategies also in place, and it was popular before as well, and now this time they're saying we are not going to go with the stable coin, we're not going to do the algorithmic way. So what about that then?
So see, the thing is that everybody is sympathetic to the people who have made a loss for literally no fault of their own. This is not a market crash or a misevaluation of a token. It was really bad programming on the part of the stablecoin creators.
Sure.
So because of that sympathy, people are not airing the negative sentiment. For example, one negative point could be, hey, what has changed in Luna? You are creating a new token, but it is exactly the copy of that. So I had a glass of water in my hand. The glass smashed because it was a flimsy glass. But now you're giving me another copy of the same glass. You're not telling me why it won't crash and what trick they are playing.
But then they're saying we are not algorithmic anyway.
Oh, no, that's what I'm saying. That's the trick they are playing. See, suppose there were no UST, that is the stable coin earlier, and there was just Luna, and Luna had fallen to whatever, 85% or 99%, people would attribute it to market forces. Because the peg was broken, we know that the algorithm was wrong. Now what they have done is that they have removed the peg. Luna's biggest purpose was to be a governance token to the UST. Now there is no UST. They have forgotten to tell us what is the main purpose of Luna anymore. So this is where I do not like what is happening.
Oh, and what are the flaws you find in this new plan, Mr. Chandra?
I think they also have to come clean on what is the consensus they are following this time. Are they still following the delegated proof of stake, which led to halting of the network? Right, so they need to come clean on that. And as Ajit pointed out, right, just forking this new network, right, will not solve much of the problem. So it's also important to highlight that are we retaining the same code, especially even in the case of this new chain, right? Just by saying that you're not following the algorithmic model, but when it comes to a collateralized stablecoin, right? How are you maintaining the peg? What are the reserve assets which you will be holding? So they need to also come clean on the reserve assets parts here.
Okay, but as you said, there has been a breach of, let's say, trust and faith here amongst the investors. So they're reviving it. Of course, they're going to give some portion of tokens to those who owned it before. Do you think people will, okay, get it and then, you know, make some money out of it if they can and then get out of it and again it will lead to another crash? I mean, I've just put it in a very layman way, but do you think that can happen in probably a more complex and technical way, Mr. Chandra?
I think that possibility cannot be ruled out. And let's also look at what's happening with the founder himself, right? So there's a lot of cases which are going on both in Korea as well as US, and there are chances that his assets might be frozen. So such a fate cannot be ruled out. That's what I can say. It's quite possible. Okay,
you're talking about Do Kwon here, and you're saying his presence is also questionable there. Just to wrap the conversation here, Mr. Khurana, so let's say if someone who had Luna, who had owned it in the past, what would you like to tell them for this revival plan as it comes tomorrow?
The thing is that one of the important points to note is that only 10% of this allocation will be given to you tomorrow, and the remaining 90% will be given to you monthly over the next 24 months.
Yeah.
So this way, frankly, even if you want to go and sell the tokens as soon as possible, you will only be able to recover a fraction of your price. And last point on this matter is that, see, I expect that tomorrow when the new Luna token lists, there will be wild fluctuations. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if the day's high and the day's low is as much as 10 times apart. So please be careful. Don't try to play the trading game. It will be pure gamble.
Okay, thank you so very much, gentlemen, for talking to us for this discussion. But Mr. Khurana, stay with us as we'll talk to you after the break as well. But before we go into the break, we also have another discussion planned for you where we'll talk about the overall market here. We're also talking about post-crash paths. Okay, we had a terrible time here in the market, but now what next? For that, we have an industry expert, Parth Chaturvedi, lead crypto ecosystem from CoinSwitch. Very warm welcome, Parth. My first question has to be, the biggest takeaway from the recent crash, the bright side of it, if there is any.
So, first of all, I would thank you for having me on the show. And I would want to say that you cannot look at this event in isolation. What is happening to crypto markets is it's something similar is playing out in equity markets globally. Basically, what is happening is the Fed is increasing interest rates. Inflation is not transitory anymore. There is not going to be a soft landing. So across asset classes, risky asset classes are going to perform, much worse than other safer havens, to put them like that. And that is why I would want to consider the correlation between Nasdaq and Bitcoin prices. That has been as high as 70%. So investors are treating Bitcoin as a technology stock. And because of that, in terms of where the bottom is, we don't really know, because we are in uncharted territory. Such amount of money printing has never happened in the past. Such amount of, interest rate increases haven't happened before. So it's sort of like a spillover from traditional markets that is really dragging down crypto prices.
Sure. I mean, you talk about external factors. It's very interesting because, there are so many factors at play here. But I want to ask, how do these conditions, let's say on the global front, how do these affect crypto market? Let's say US hiking interest rates to contain its inflation, or rupee falling here back home. How do these conditions really affect the crypto market?
So you have to see crypto as an asset class. Basically, it is one of the riskiest asset class, and the correlation that I mentioned with Nasdaq is a clear indication that investors look at it as a tech play. And further, if I filter down to only FANG stocks, so which are high growth technology stocks in the US, you see Netflix is down 50%. You see Microsoft is doing pretty bad. Snap fell 40% in a day. So such kind of movements were very common in crypto, but now it is spilling over into, equity markets. And because of that, there is a general risk averse sentiment. The Fed raising its interest rates, it leads to liquidity drying up in the space. So there was a lot of, institutional money which was chasing returns that is looking for safer, stabler yields, which you can find in 10-year treasury notes of the US government. So the demand for that is going to increase, and globally we'll see, equity markets suffering. And because of that, since crypto is treated as a risky asset, it will also face the correction.
And we've also talked about stock market here. And do you think we can compare Luna crash to Lehman Brothers crash, or was it worse?
So again, in terms of magnitude, it was pretty similar. So the ecosystem of Luna Terra lost around $50 billion in 48 hours or so. Yeah. And compared to Lehman Brothers, that was like a 60 billion hole and led to like a global recession and financial crisis. So in that sense, the bright spot is blockchain and crypto as an industry. It has survived the shock. BTC prices were like, they tanked with the crash, but they're now like, stabilizing around the 30,000 mark. And moreover, we have this sort of transparency, which only blockchain can provide, where you can like see this, even the snapshot that Terra is referring to, you can see what holders of the token were there at one particular time. And basis that they will, allocate the new token to other people. So in terms of transparency, I think it's very different from what happened in Lehman Brothers. But in terms of scale, without doubt, this is one of the biggest events in crypto history.
And Parth, CoinSwitch is one of the leading exchanges here in India. And, I see a lot of tutorials also on the app. And we've seen the app also talk about new strategies. What would you say? Should one revisit their strategy in these new conditions?
So, again, if you're trying to find the bottom here, that is not going to be easy. If you're a long-term investor, you could use this as an opportunity, to accumulate quality names, quality crypto. So that is what is happening also. We have seen a flight towards quality crypto, which is Bitcoin and Ethereum. They haven't fallen as much as like, the other altcoins, as we call them. Reason for that is like these blockchains are time tested. They have been around for very long. Blockchain for like Bitcoin, for example, has been working for more than a decade. So that is something that you can probably like, consider. But in terms of investing in altcoins, you have to, there's a term called DYOR, do your own research, and do not try to catch a falling knife. Basically, a lot of people did that with Luna. When the prices started tanking, they thought they will go up, and they just, caught a falling knife. So in terms of changing strategies, if you're an investor, accumulate for the long run. If you're a trader, be ready for a lot of volatility. And
here on Coffee and Crypto, we also have a term BYOC, which is bring your own coffee. Next time, please get your coffee also as we chat over cryptocurrency. But no, I mean, jokes apart, just one last quick question. Is it the end of crypto winter? Finally, I mean, as situation is getting better, do you think, would you call it end of crypto winter?
I wouldn't like to comment on that in terms of, when we will see the end or where is the bottom.
Yeah.
But without doubt, this kind of phase is going to continue till, the Fed figures out where interest rates are going to be, how sticky is inflation. So there are a lot of external factors you have to consider. The Ukraine war, it's going to create global supply chain is getting disrupted, because of which that feeds into inflation. Inflation then results in Fed increasing the rates. So all these factors are there's too much at play here, and that's why it's not I would say pragmatic to come up with some kind of bottom level here.
Sure. Thank you so very much, Parth. Thanks for joining us for this conversation. For now, it's time for us to take a very short break. But next up, we have MCQ. That's My Crypto Queries, which means your crypto queries. Ajit Khurana will be with us for answering all your queries. Stay with us. Don't go anywhere. Hi, you're watching Coffee and Crypto. I'm Arun Singh, and now we have MCQ for you. That's My Crypto Queries, where you send in your queries and our expert answers it for you. And we have Ajit Khurana, founder of Flexical, here with us, and we'll begin with all the queries that we've got on Instagram. DK is asking, will the losses from Luna be recovered? If you can unmute yourself, Mr. Khurana. We've had a long discussion about Luna here, but now I really wanted to go to the specifics of our audience. Specific questions. DK is asking, will the losses be recovered?
I think that it is very unlikely that all the losses will be recovered, but after they start the allocations beginning tomorrow, you may be able to recover a significant part of it.
Right. Next question we have from the handle called the Korean Lang. Is there any way to save tax on crypto? What about decentralized exchanges?
So if you are an Indian resident and subject to Indian tax, there is no method scheme to do it short of doing tax evasion. For example, when you talk about decentralized exchange, you are basically saying, I'll make profits, but I'll not tell anyone. So I have saved tax. That is not tax saving, that is tax evasion. There is, however, one method that some people are using. It may not be applicable to most of you, but you should know what the big boys are doing. A lot of people are relocating abroad and thereby changing their residency from India to another residency and probably booking profits there, which may or may not be subject to Indian taxation.
But then if you're an Indian citizen and trading on an international exchange, you'll still have to file your taxes here.
Let's call it Indian tax resident, because citizenship, we don't tax on citizenship but on residency. So if you're an Indian tax resident and you trade wherever, decentralized exchange, foreign based exchange, whatever, you are completely liable for tax in India.
Yeah, sure. And then we have Shashank Kapoor also, who has a video question for us. Have a look.
Your views on the long-term value of cryptocurrencies, A, as a currency, and B, as an investable product, considering the recent volatility and overall volatility of this entire product?
I'm almost jealous on seeing the background that he had, but anyway, a very valid question.
Please be jealous of my plain background also, but answering his question directly, the fact is that if you look at February numbers, Facebook had around 1.9 billion daily active users. If you look at January numbers, all applications in crypto, Web3 put together, all put together had 2.4 million. So roughly speaking, you could say that if Web3 goes in the same direction as Web2, we easily have 1,000-fold growth possible in Web3, that is crypto, over the next decade. So the outlook for crypto, I would say, is very bright. Having said that, this does not mean that all cryptocurrencies will gain. For example, there have been few hundred social media setups that have come over the last 2 decades, but only Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and a few others made it. So the sector will do well, but make sure you bet on the right horses.
Sure. And last question we have from Ajinkya Manohar as well. And he's asking, is Solana going to improve?
That is a painful question, but a good question. See, all tokens fell, right? But while Bitcoin and Ethereum fell roughly 60% from their 52-week high, Solana has fallen roughly 85% from its 52-week high. So there is some special fall that we are seeing in Solana. If we understand why it is happening, 2 reasons. Reason number 1, the Solana blockchain has malfunctioned a few times in the recent past, which is it's unacceptable. If for a blockchain to malfunction is unacceptable. A specific application could malfunction, but a blockchain can't. Solana has done that. Second thing is that there was this dream that because Solana's transactions per second are far more than anything that anybody else can bring to the table as of today, people would rush to create apps. Both of those have turned out to be wrong. A malfunctioning blockchain and not a big rush to create new apps has dampened the party. It is still a party. Solana is still a good token. It has not failed. It is not a Luna. But now the optimism on it is relatively lower. So will it come back to its original price? No time soon. I think that people will still remain skeptical for some time.
But we shall definitely come back next week. That is Friday. But thank you so very much. That's all the time that we had for this segment. I'm Arun Singh. It's time for me to wrap this show. But you can see Coffee and Crypto on NDTV 24/7 at 6:30 p.m. every Friday. Do not miss it. It's a goodbye from my side.
Crypto products and NFTs are unregulated and can be highly risky. There may be no regulatory recourse for any loss from such transactions.